Hello, Targar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for another Orc Mode workout. Today was max effort bench press day, but you guys know the rules. Please remember to click like down below before we go to the PR attempt. Go ahead, reach down and click it. You guys know you like these videos, it'd be greatly appreciated. Keep the likes higher than the dislikes. Today I decided with the wider grip today, and I'm going to experiment around with a few different things on my max effort days, mainly because I can, because they're just max effort, right? And a 1 rep max is a 1 rep max. Doesn't matter what variation or technique you use, we're building our strength and our size off the supplemental work. So I decided to experiment back with toes on my feet. I could obviously get a bigger arch there, and with the wider grip that seems to matter. Now, we know I am weaker at wide grip than close grip. And it's not just by 2 or 3 pounds. It's a good 10 pounds or more, if not more. So I decided to mess with it a bit, and the first one felt good. I realized I probably didn't have the J-hook set quite low enough for me, and I think we see it here. I barely got it out. And when I went to go up, I struggled to lock against those chains at the top. Now, I'm not going to blame the J-hooks entirely, because I noticed I didn't quite lock before I got up to where they should have been anyways. So there was more going on than that. Now, we could argue, is that tricep? Possibly. Possibly, but I still feel such a massive amount of chest. And I think next time I'm going to come in and mess with a closer grip. It would be close grip for a lot of people, but was kind of medium grip for me, which means a couple inches off the smooths. With on my toes again, and see how big of a lift I get. Because quite frankly, I'm only concerned with hitting the biggest lifts possible. That's the reason I'm messing with the wide grip. Because in theory it should be better, but it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, even though in theory it should be. It is for most guys. I could be the exception to the rule. I very well might be, but it doesn't mean I don't experiment with it. It did show that my pec weakness is enormous though, and I need to do a ton of extra chest work. And we've covered that already. It has to do with my rib cage. I have a very, very, very big rib cage and collarbone. And again, the camera doesn't always display it as well. People who know me notice it. It's always been that way since I was a teenager, like since I was like 13 years old. So I've always had that. And it's again, unusual in terms of structure. So I need to add more meat to my pecs, and I have the real estate to do so, and it'll help all of my benching no matter what grip I use. If I choose to stick with the closer grip, the extra chest work is still going to help because the pecs still matter. They still matter out of the bottom. Arguably, they matter at the top. So we don't not train them, and I have avoided training them, and my bench has dramatically suffered for it. So we're going to keep doing that no matter what. No matter what, we're going to keep training the pecs. Just means there needs to be a lot of tricep work involved too. Now, we saw on that mislift, there could be some tricep weakness. So how about I just train the holy heck out of both? We go ahead and hit pretty much well above minimum effective volume. I press every 48 hours in some way. We'll keep a lot of volume on my pecs and my triceps. Even with smaller lifts, we'll do whatever we need to do to get there. Nobody in the history of lifting has ever gotten a weaker bench press by building up their pecs or triceps. Okay? I don't think any good coach is going to disagree with that point. So it doesn't even matter where we decide my weak link is on wide grip versus close grip. We know pecs are weak on the wide grip. We know I need more tricep in general if I'm on a close grip, and maybe even for the wide grip. So build them both, that's fine. Put a very, very serious focus on them. They're going to get a higher priority. I decided after the first 3 sets of this, I did a micro bump up to try to do the closer grip to see how it felt. I felt more tricep, less chest, and it was harder. Normally, I'm stronger on narrow grip. Like with a straight bar, I'm stronger at close grip than wide grip. This football bar floor press doesn't seem to be the case. Doesn't seem to be the case at all because I lost 2 reps. I wasn't able to get quite the same reps on the last 2 sets. Now, is it because I was already fatigued? Maybe. But I wanted to experiment around, see how both feel. All right, I wanted to see how both feel. I don't think that's a bad idea. So I did so. But I think the point that needs to be made with the toes, some people are going to say, well, that's not legal in this fed or that fed. I don't care. I don't particularly like the fed that bans it. I'm not saying I don't support powerlifting. Just saying I have no intention of competing in it. They're not fun. I don't like their politics. Okay? I just don't. So I'm not worried about it. Not worried about it. Most federations allow you to go on your toes. So if I end up being stronger that way, mainly because you get a little more arch, it's not as stable in theory. As we see when I go wide grip, I look a little unstable with it. But with close grip, I'm fine. So I'm not worried about it. I don't care. It's just like when people come in and say, well, this whatever lift won't meet this, that's okay. I'm not worried about it. Because I don't plan on competing with them. Interpret that how you will. People who say the silly stuff, I just get to a point to where honestly I'm just going to ban guys who say you don't compete. It's very, very, very obvious. I plan on competing again. Okay? It should be so obvious that for a person to even say that, they have to be stupid. They don't watch my vlogs. We're just not going to say with who, with where, or when. Obviously going to happen. So, and it's not like I haven't competed before or even refereed meets that I didn't even compete in or attended as a guest to half a dozen meets that I didn't do either one in. Okay, I actually have a pretty good history of that. So, back over to the training. The flies, I went ahead and these ended up hitting like 30 plus reps. It's the same weight I used last time. I just got better at it. So these were a lot of reps. Am I worried? Say, oh no, it's too many reps. No, we still stimulate hypertrophy. Plus we're getting blood flow and training a muscle in a way it's not used to, a lagging muscle. I may go over and mess with bands though, and I need to bring the reps down. 30 is a bit too much probably. Closer to 20 would be more what I want out of these smaller movements. I might mess with the bands also. Why? I've tested it already. I have the setup to do it. I can do it easy enough with these handles. Number 2, we can talk about, again, tendon health. Number 3, the overspeed eccentrics, the stretch reflex, and then the fact that you can contract really hard near the top. Why does that matter? Well, think about in terms of something like a close grip bench. Right? Sometimes if I slow on a closer grip bench, it's near the top. People say, oh, it's all triceps. Well, is it? If your chest and the fibers of your chest are trained to contract hard up there too, chest can contribute. Yeah, the triceps matter a lot, but we're going to do a ton of tricep work. But we need to be thinking in terms of every one of these smaller exercises. Are we going to maximize everything? Right, if I'm going to do a smaller movement, I really want to maximize what I'm doing with it. I want to be thinking in terms of, is it giving me a good stretch at the bottom of the movement? Is that building tendons? Am I getting a peak contraction? Because I could just bench otherwise, which is not necessarily ideal for shoulder health. And that's kind of what this comes down to. It's that we're not going to get overuse in certain things. We can use smaller exercises to throw in a lot more volume that we can recover from if we're careful of those movements to avoid overuse. Tendons tend to get stronger from higher rep band work. We don't get overuse easily off that stuff. That makes us resistant to it. And in fact, the novel training response to it can make us more resistant to overuse in general. So I may need to do that. In fact, I may consider doing it as soon as my next bench session. Either way, even if I choose to go with a closer grip bench for a while, even if I decide that's going to be my full-time position again, because I want to mess with the wide grip. If I build my pecs up and build my pecs up and build my pecs up, I might find when I go back and mess with this wide grip again, which is terrible right now, that it is stronger. I'm also going to find that if my pecs are a weak link on the wide grip, they may be under contributing to a closer grip too. And again, we come back to the point. Nowhere in the history of training has anyone's bench press gotten weaker as a result of developing their pecs and triceps further. Okay? Now, before people mention delts, I have a press day. The press day is very delt focused. extremely delt focused. We're getting a ton of delt work. Plus, I'm going to be doing face pulls every one of these press days, which is every 48 hours. I'm going to do 5 sets of face pulls. Okay, that's going to handle the parts of my delts that's lagging the most. When we look closely at some of these movements, as you guys see me moving around and stuff, my interior delts really aren't lagging in any way. And my overhead press strength shows they're not lagging. In fact, they're not a weak link in my standing press. My triceps seem to be. Now, do I need more side and rear delt? Yeah, but face pulls do a heck of a job addressing that, particularly with the rowing volume I'm doing. Okay, so if you look there, you guys can see at those movements when I come up and down and stuff. Front delts are big. Side and rear need work, right? They need work. And we keep doing the very, very high volume face pulls for that. Means, again, most of my focus here can be chest. It can be triceps. Okay, and that means on the benching days we'll do flies. Obviously, I'm doing incline on the standing press days. Why? Because it also works my chest really well, and it has good carryover to the press. Let me come back to the point. A lot of people say, well, the overhead press doesn't carry over as well to wide grip. True, it doesn't. It carries over really well to close grip, though. Again, come back to that point. My delts are stronger than my pecs. That's why I'm better at close grip. Right? Pretty obvious. Pretty obvious. But if we fix it, we have more options, don't we? You know, why don't we just fix all these weak links, build these areas up maximally, and have options? So we went back over these extensions. I did these last bench press day also. Did them last time. And I think I'm going to do them all of my pressing days. Why? They're just really effective. People say, what about the band work for your tendons? I think I'm going to do what the West Side guys, a lot of them do. Since they put such a focus on tricep specialization, a lot of them just do press downs every day. I already do reverse hypers every day. I already do some band curls every day. I can throw in a set or two of band press downs to failure every day. Probably help with the tricep specialization. And I can focus on these movements on my actual pressing days. Focus on progressive overload on these. And then I can make sure my tendon health is carried on the others. And then it's going to be just continual tricep stimulation. Okay? Keep that muscle protein synthesis elevated. I wouldn't recommend you do that with every muscle in your body. You need 48 hours break for most of them. Some of these smaller muscles, if we're not doing too many of them, we can do this. Especially if it's restorative type stuff, you know, stuff that gets a lot of blood flow, like high rep band work or the reverse hyper. It's a different animal. I wouldn't do these every day. But man, the first set, my triceps were cramping again. But I bumped the weight back up to what I used to be using, and I feel like I can do another rep or two more than when I quit before. I got 18 on that first set. Then it was like 17, 16. I might have only got 15 on the last set, but I might have got 16. Okay, I think my maxes were like 15 to 16 with this before, with this weight. So we'll keep it moving. I'll micro load it up. I mean, I want to stay close to 15 reps. I definitely don't want to go to 12. But we can keep loading it up, get stronger through that rep range. Really, really develop my triceps. And again, I can always do the band work separately. You guys have seen me demonstrate enough of it on camera that you know I actually do it. Not difficult to work in. So again, these days are going to be dedicated to the right supplemental work, to building my pecs, building my triceps. I might even mess with more close grip pressing for volume, like I was doing for just a little while, and then I can do flies and extensions behind it. I don't have to do floor press all the time. I could. I'll have to. I have to see how my shoulder health holds up, see how it feels. And I think when I go over an arch a little bit, like I was doing, I don't ever feel shoulder issues at all on the closer grip benching. So that could be, again, a solution also as far as doing it for volume. I could always mess with the football bar too. I just don't like always doing it out of the rack. But, you know, I digress. We'll make it work. You can rotate through these things. Again, if I'm rotating through them anyways, we avoid overuse. It's better that way. But yeah, a lot of tricep work in today. A lot of pec work. That's the way we have to go. I've got to bring them up. Bring them up, get that bench up. Keep building those muscles. Keep learning to strain against heavy weights. Dial in different techniques. It's kind of like I've done with my squat. Part of my squat has also been me finding my ideal foot position, the way I grip to the ground a certain way. That's way more complicated than I really want to cover in the vlog. Some people notice my stance has changed with me hitting some of these PRs. Yeah, it has. But it's the way that I screw my feet into the ground, and then the way I can rotate my hips through it. It does matter on my max squats. So we're going to have to mess with more of those things on the bench. And I feel like, again, go back over to what was possibly my naturally strongest bench position. Continue to build these muscles. Because remember, guys, that bench that I had built up before with that position was purely through like Bulgarian training. I wasn't doing real hypertrophy training for these areas. So they're probably bigger now. My pecs and triceps and delts and everything are bigger now. So if I keep building them up and go back to those positions, now I'm using stiff wrist wraps. I can be more stable. My bench may have actually gone up a lot more than we realize it has. So then we did the face pulls. People will say, why? Well, again, to replace the laterals. Laterals hurt my shoulders, right? They just simply are not viable for me. Great movement, and if you can do them, and I'm doing stuff going out of my way to try to keep the methods that we know don't crush the glenoid, they just inflame the holy hell out of my shoulder, my left one, to the point to where I feel like I almost dislocated something. So when I was doing the pressing with the football bar overhead 2 days ago, something crackled into place and the pain went away. Now there's been some residual that came back yesterday in that area after it crackled in that's totally different, and I'm still doing my mobility work, but I do struggle with shoulder mobility. And again, it may not be even true be mobility so much as joint limitations. The actual bone structure that I have with my really wide clavicle. I'm going to keep working on it. I don't want to let that be an excuse. I'm going to work on it, but I do remain skeptical. But if we don't try to fix something, we can't complain about it, right? We can't complain about it. So what's up with these? Well, on these, I'm doing, again, a position. Someone said, speaking of the range of motion, someone said, shouldn't you be going further back? When you see me pause like that and strain, that is as far back as my hands will go. There is no other option. If I'm straining like that, that's everything I have. So what I did on the first few sets, I did about 20, and then I started pausing at the top. The final couple sets, I started getting more towards, especially the final set, of just pausing at the top all the way through. And I could only get about 20 after I was totally fatigued from the first 3 to 4 sets. So 5 sets of these, and they really, really, really hit my side and rear delt. I feel it tremendously. The EMG data supports that. What I feel supports that. So let's do it. I can build my rear and side delts off of these. They're good shoulder prehab exercise. They're easy to recover from. Okay? They don't look particularly nice to watch me do. But, you know, they are what they are. They are what they are. But I'll continue to do them. 5 sets of these every upper body day, every press day. That's really what it is. It's squat, deadlift, and then press type days. Bench and then press. But good workout. Felt we've learned a lot. Going to keep moving forward, experiment with things. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.